Okay. I apologize. Ina alhamdulillah wa salam Allah wa rasulullah. Welcome to our welcome to our series. I'm sorry, I just had my COVID shot and I had the flu shot and my arm is kind of sore. So I got to do this too. She told me when it does that to just get the medicine moving. Okay, welcome to our series on Aqidah. And by the way, get your flu shot. Seriously, people, let me talk about that for a minute. You need to get your shots. Remember the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us that for every sickness comes from Allah, but he never sends a sickness without sending a treatment. So take the treatment. This is the flu season. You guys know the weather's changing. Yes, the leaves are beautiful and all that, but this is when people get sick. The flu shots are available. You need to get to your local pharmacy and schedule you a flu shot, especially if you are a person that suffers with asthma like I do. Y'all remember how sick I got last year? I didn't get my flu shot last year, and boy, I never forget it. I couldn't breathe, couldn't talk for a whole month. It took me a month to get over that crap. And it wasn't COVID. Remember, I thought I had COVID and I thought I was dying. They said, you don't have no COVID. They said, you got, asthma. Your lungs are inflamed. They said, you need to take the flu shot every year because I have respiratory problems. So I'm telling you, sisters and brothers out there, anybody that has respiratory problems like I do, asthma, this is asthma season. You need to go and get your flu shot and also the COVID booster. My doctor made me go do it. And she's telling me to get something else called some RSV, which I don't even know about that. She told me to get the RSV and shingle too. Subhanallah, because I'm telling you guys, the older we get, the weaker our body becomes. And I'm telling you, you don't want to get sick and you can't breathe. You sitting there. There's no cure for the flu, just like there's no cure for the COVID. But like the Prophet said, Allah does send the treatment. So we got a treatment. The treatment helps it. It helps you to not get sick like I was last winter because I was hard-headed and didn't get my flu shot. That's the first year I went without a flu shot in 36 years because when I worked, my job required it. So I said, well, I ain't working. I'm retired. I ain't taking them shots. I'm going to see what happened. And I got sick. I was spent the whole month of January and February sick. So go get those flu shots and your COVID booster because the germs are out there. People coming around you, they might have COVID. They cough on you. All it takes is one cough, one sneeze. And you guys know people don't cover their mouths. Let's just talk about it. Muslims can be just as trifling as non-Muslims. How many of you don't cover your mouth when you cough? See, I'm a germ phobic. I'll throw you out my house. My granddaughter came over here with her mother. All my grandkids were here the other day. My daughter coughed and didn't cover her mouth. I told her, that's it. Pack up. I took the Lysol out and started spraying. I said, everybody get out. It's time to go. Okay? Some people like me, I don't like germs. So most people don't cover their mouth. So I'm telling you guys, the chances of you getting a virus are very high. That booster, COVID booster, and that flu shot, and whatever this RSV, I got to read about that. I ain't never heard of it. My doctor told me take the RSV too, especially since I got so sick last year that the asthma medicine wasn't working, So if you got respiratory, y'all better take it. It'll make it easier to get over it. You can take those little pills the doctor give you and the asthma puffer, and it works. But when you don't have that protection, you'd be like I was. I don't want to get sick like that again. I thought I was dying last summer. Y'all remember when that happened? Fresno, you remember when I was sick? Norto, y'all remember I couldn't talk, couldn't do my classes? I thought I was dying of COVID. And it wasn't COVID. It was the flu. Some crazy virus that they never even heard of. They said I had some flu virus that nobody even heard of. And that's because I didn't take the precaution. Can't let it happen this year. Woo, I'm thinking about it now. So anyway, guys, get your shot, especially you older women. And stop thinking everything is a conspiracy. Stop thinking that the white man trying to kill you. Stop thinking that America's putting a bug in you. The Arabs think that any type of vaccination is America spying on them, putting a bug in them. And then the African Americans think it's the white man. You know, stop thinking that ignorant stuff and go get vaccinated. Subhanallah. I know you get sore. The flu, the COVID arm is fine, but my flu arm is sore as heck. That flu shot is sore. But subhanallah, you know, just move it around. All right, let's get started. Today is Friday. Before I begin my class, let me announce Dr. Dramali called me a few minutes ago. He canceled his class for tonight. As you guys know, Dr. Dramali's family is over there in Palestine, and he lost a couple of relatives, and he's upset. So he's canceled his classes for this weekend. This week, he'll try to resume his classes next week, inshallah. Everybody got that? So no class. And also that's Brother Youssef too. So Dr. Jamali and Brother Youssef's class, you know, their class is canceled for this weekend. Okay, and let's, you know, make sure you guys keep the all the believers in your supplication. Ask Allah to give them all the ability to handle their qadr, whatever it may be, with dignity, you know, because that's the thing. We have to have that dignity. All right. Okay, so no Jamali class, but we do have my 9 o'clock Ask Sister Laila live. So make sure y'all remember, have the people have their questions ready for me tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Call In and Ask Sister Laila live show. If there's a question I can't answer, y'all know, inshallah, Sheikh Morsi will be on standby to take your calls, okay? All right, so let's get started with this class. We have been discussing how having allegiance for Allah, for the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and for each other is an obligation. And this is something that we as Muslims have to work on, because until our allegiance is right, we'll never be true believers. Y'all understand that? So we've spent the past week going over chapter 10 of the book, Diluting, Wal Bara. And by the way, for those of you who have not yet purchased this book, you want to head over to Amazon and pick up a copy of this book. It's only $19.99. And the book is written by Sheikh Karim Abu Zaid. And I consider this book a masterpiece. This book and the previous book before it are masterpieces. Get to know your Lord, which I taught you guys about. That's the first part of the Shahada. Okay, and then this Wal Bara is the second part. So both of these books of this trilogy needs to be a part of everyone's library. Okay. So chapter 10 went over how things how difficult it is for us as Muslims to maintain allegiance with each other. So that chapter covered things we can do to increase it, to better it. Number one, it all begins with seeking the proper knowledge of Islam, the proper understanding of Islam. And then after that, you know, developing, working on changing our soul and training it to love only what Allah loves and to hate only what Allah hates. Because as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, you will never be a believer, a true believer, until you love what Allah loves and only hate what he hates. This prevents us from transgressing the limits because it doesn't entail personal feelings. And then after establishing that love for the sake of Allah, then we work on certain components of character building, such as number one, empathy. And we talked about how as Muslims, we need to do away with sympathy and instead replace it with empathy, because there's a big difference. Sympathy means you feel sorry for something. And so many of us Muslims are walking around with pity parties. We give pity parties to ourselves. That's why we can't handle our situations. Then we throw pity parties for others. And we end up transgressing the limits of Allah by doing stupid things like blowing up buildings and stuff out of anger. Well, empathy is different. Empathy doesn't entail the heart. It entails utilizing the brain. The heart is where your emotions lie. The brain holds our logic. When you empathize with a person and their situation, this entails putting yourself in their shoes. And when you put yourself in the shoes of someone else, you have to think, what would you do if this were happening to you? How would you handle this? And that's how we prevent all that transgression. You know, it removes the anger. It removes the pity. And instead makes you focus on what Allah likes, what Allah dislikes, how to bring about the balance. Because as Muslims, we're supposed to be all about the balance, okay? So empathy is a characteristic that we need to work on developing, because by developing that, that'll help us to grow to be able to look at each other. And instead of seeing the bad or the things that we don't like, we'll put that personal crap aside and only see what's pleasing to Allah. And with empathy comes compassion. Once we can master empathy within ourselves, that will in turn help us to become more compassionate. And once we develop compassion, what does that lead to? That leads to justice. That's why Allah says you Muslims are a just nation. We're balanced, because instead of all that pity that the Christians had, you know, we got empathy. And because of that empathy, unlike the Jews, we have compassion. The Jews lacked compassion. And because we have those two characteristics that they lack, now we are a just nation. We are justly balanced. We don't allow our emotions to get in the way of our decision making. And we end up helping everyone, not based on race, not based on color, not based on religion, but based on what's right and what's fair. Everybody understand that? That's what that basically summarizes what we discussed in chapter 10. So now we're moving on to chapter 11, and everybody get your books out. I'm going to put the PowerPoint up on the screen. Yeah, I know the light, you know, you can see the light in my room. I don't know why. It's just the light. I know my curtain rods should be here today, and then I'll be able to block the light here in this room. Okay. Yeah. Okay, let me put it on so you guys can see from the beginning. Okay, everybody should have prepared by reading ahead. Today we're going to cover the first part of chapter 11. And this chapter addresses the significance of disassociation. We talked about, you know, al-wala. Al-wala refers to developing allegiance to Allah, allegiance to the Prophet, allegiance to each other. The second part is Wal Bara. Bara is disassociation. So this chapter is going to address Wal Bara. And this is where Muslims have a hard time. Okay, we have a hard time because many of the Muslims here come from Christian backgrounds. And let me talk about that for a second. I remember back in the early 2000s, back when they had that program called MySpace, I had a lot of new converts, new women who had just converted to Islam because they married Arabic men. They converted to Islam and they joined my website to learn about Islam. And I went over, this is what I teach, Aqidah. I've been teaching the same classes since 1986. So I was teaching them Wal Bara. And I was telling them that hate is a part of faith. We went over the hadith where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, you will never be a believer until you hate for the sake of Allah. Those women went bonkers on me. Oh, they said, you're crazy. God is love. God is good. Eat your peas like you should. I mean, they could not understand that. And then they told their husbands about it. And then they went to the masjid. These women, most of them lived in Texas. They went to their communities in Texas and said, this woman is teaching hatred, that God is hate, Allah is hate, and all this. And these imams, I'm so shocked, those imams supported those women. But I know why now they did, because they weren't upon what I'm upon anyway. But anyway, okay, another story. I could not get those women to understand that this is a component of faith. I couldn't get them to understand that when we hate, it's not personal. We're hating the things that Allah hates. They said Allah doesn't hate. He's good. Eat your peas like you should. You know, they couldn't get past that word hate. And I remember one of those imams calling me saying, Sister Laila, don't you think that you should probably use better words? I said, what better word is there to use other than hate? That's what Allah uses. Well, you know, you need to change it to maybe there's some things that are not approved of. I said, approved of don't mean the same as hate. The Prophet said hate is a component of faith. He didn't say don't approve of is a component. I said, oh, Lord, these people are crazy. But anyway, you know, now I think here we have 20-something, 30-something years later, though, I hope those women, the ones that are still Muslim, because many of those women apostated, unfortunately. But the ones that did remain Muslim, I hope they understand that this is a component of faith. I've always taught the true Aqidah. I've never deviated away from what I'm teaching now. Okay, you will never be a believer until you train yourself to hate the things that Allah hates. It's not personal. It's business. Okay? And I want everybody to understand that hate is not a bad word. Okay? It's a component of faith. So let's look and see this chapter. This chapter is going to speak about the significance of distancing yourself within the framework of Islam. In this chapter, we're going to explore how the concept of distancing yourself plays a crucial role in shaping your behavior among other Muslims and non-Muslims too. Wal Bara. This refers to distancing yourself from anything that contradicts the teachings of Allah, the teachings of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or the religion of Islam. Anything that contradicts what Allah says, anything that goes against my Islamic values, anything that goes against my Islamic principles, I'm going to distance myself away from it. This is one of the ways of showing hate for the sake of Allah. So Wal Bara entails having a strong aversion and a strong rejection against anything that opposes our Islamic teachings. I hate cigarettes. I hate intoxicants. Allah hates cigarettes. Allah hates intoxicants. It's not personal, okay? So since I hate cigarettes and I hate intoxicants, I'm going to distance myself away from them. I don't go to events that entail drinking, that entail smoking. I don't go around people who drink, people who smoke. I stay away from environments that have drinking and smoking in the public. That's why I move way out into the suburbs. People do it, but it's behind closed doors. I don't want to see it, be a part of it. That's distancing yourself away from whatever opposes, what Allah likes. Everybody understand that? Okay? And that's what this chapter is going to speak about. Also, Kareem Abu-Zayd tells us that he's also going to examine the psychological process involved in distancing. Because in order to distance yourself, this goes beyond your personal preference, your personal inclinations. It requires you to engage in critical thinking, self-reflection, and moral discernment. So that's a psychological process that we have to embark upon in order to effectively distance ourselves. And by doing this, using your thinking, your critical thinking and your self-reflection, it'll help you develop a deep understanding of Allah's laws, Allah's principles. For example, you will learn, for example, to love the fact that you have to cover your body. By distancing yourself away from those women that don't. And we look at the reasons why. Because what Allah says it leads to, it'll make you want to dress the correct way. And you'll dress the correct way and you'll hold your head up with pride because you are doing what Allah likes for you to do. And you're distancing yourself away from those who don't. So it's a psychological process too. And also in this chapter, we're going to explore the influence and power that distancing has on relationships, and the power and influence that distancing has on building relationships too. So inshallah, I'm hoping that through this chapter, and I'm going to break it down in even plainer English for you, that we'll walk away, unlike those MySpace women, understanding that hate is a part of faith if it's applied the correct way, through distancing, through Wal Bara. Okay? So let's see how Sheikh Kareem Abu-Zayd begins this chapter. He begins this chapter by speaking of the significance. Why it's so significant to distance. Well, in Islam, distancing leads to unity within the Muslim community. Why? Because it entails having hatred, rejection, and aversion, as we said, for those things that are bad, those things that are dirty, that Allah commands us to stay away from. Okay, and it'll also protect us from people who hold hostile views, people who hold opposing views, people who engage in actions or ideologies that can contradict our belief system. That's why it's important, guys, for you to not have your children in non-Muslim schools, man. Why do you people have your kids in non-Muslim schools? You're exposing your children to ideologies, lifestyles, hostilities, and concepts that totally contradict our belief system. And then you wonder why your son will come home and tell you that he ain't practicing Islam no more. Your daughter will come home and tell you she ain't dressing like that. She gonna get her a boyfriend. Look what you've exposed them to. Those ideologies and lifestyles that totally contradict ours. Had you distanced them away from that, they wouldn't have come to you with this. So y'all see, that's Wala and Wal Bara. That's Wal Bara. Okay? Also, when we distance ourselves physically, we're also doing it consciously and doing it within our heart too. How are we doing it within our heart? It's helping us to resent those bad things that Allah doesn't like. Okay? It's causing us to resent all which opposes him and opposes his messenger, the religion, and the unity of our ummah. And as a result of distancing yourself against those things, where does your attachment grow? Your attachment grows with the Muslims. The children, your children will attach to other children like them, who live like them, believe like them, act like them, look like them. So there's a lot of significance in distancing ourselves, guys. Wal Bara is not a bad term at all. Okay, it's just that we have to understand its meaning. And that's the problem. Most Muslims don't understand the meaning of it. Okay? Ponder this verse. Allah says, in the interpretation of the meaning, you will never find a people who believe in Allah on the last day having affection or fondness for those who oppose him and his messenger, even if it were their family members, their father, their son, their brother. This is so true. A lot of people will come to you maybe and say, wow, you know, I don't think it's right that you threw your son out the house. Your son comes home, age of 16, telling you that he's going to sell drugs. He wants to be a dope man. So you put him out because you're not going to have that stuff. You know, the non-Muslims come to you and say, how could you have done that? He's your boy. He's your son. Yes, he's my son. But he wants to take on a lifestyle that totally contradicts how my lifestyle and his should be. So he got to go. I love him because he's my son, but I don't love him more than Allah because he is not Allah. Your children don't belong to you anyway. They are just simply temporary loans that Allah give to us to try us with. Sometimes those children can be a blessing for us, but unfortunately, most times they're not. They're disappointments. So again, that balance, because of Wala, your allegiance. Wala, your allegiance to Allah helps you to balance your love for your children, your husband, your wives. Okay? So we're not going to put our love for them equal to or above Allah. So if we have to make a decision to distance, to cut off even a person, we can do that. Does everybody understand that? So that's what this verse is talking about. You know, you will never find a true believer loving anyone or anything that opposes Allah, that opposes the prophet or the religion of Islam, even if it's their relative. Everybody understand that? So this verse emphasizes the importance of renunciation of anything or anyone that opposes our way of life. And in turn, by doing that, you're demonstrating, you're displaying Wal Bara, or distancing. Does everybody understand that? Simple process. But again, you can't get to Wal Bara, without wala, allegiance. That's why we talked about allegiance first. You have to get that love and affection for Allah and the Prophet and religion and each other intact first. Otherwise, you will never make it to separation or distancing. Okay? Because that love got to be balanced, man. If your love is not balanced, you're going to make the wrong decisions. You're going to make the wrong choices, and Allah is going to hold you accountable. He's going to ask you, why did you allow your son to stay in your house and sell drugs out of it? Why didn't you stop it? Why didn't you put him out? You know what I said about intoxicants. Look at the lives he's killed, the lives he's damaged from doing that, and you pay in that sin. You pay a part in that sin. Okay? I want you guys to ponder this hadith of the Prophet. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said the strongest bond of faith is to love for the sake of Allah and to disassociate for the sake of Allah. So for a parent that can do this, this shows how strong that mother, that father is in their faith. Okay? And by identifying and averting from those things that oppose our belief system, in turn, our hearts and actions become aligned with truth. And this brings about unity, righteousness, and spiritual conviction. Subhanallah. So let's talk about the psychological process that a person has to undergo in order to reach this level of where he or she can distance. Again, just like allegiance, wala, is not personal, neither is Wal Bara. Okay, we have to think. Your son tells you he's selling drugs. He likes the money he's making. He's not going to stop. He'll even give you part of what he makes so you can buy that new car, that new washing machine, that new refrigerator. You got to think, critical thinking. What would Allah say? If I bought that new car, I bought that new refrigerator. This is illegal money. That means if I, even gave in charity, Allah is not even going to accept my charity from this money. So again, distancing requires critical thought, reflection. This is where your faith is tested. Everything you know. When you're faced with a situation like that, where your son tells you he's going to sell drugs out your house, everything you know is now tested. And you're going to have to utilize your intellect. You're going to have to utilize your beliefs. You're going to have to evaluate your behavior. And you're going to have to evaluate it based on the laws of Allah. Y'all see, that's the psychological process of Wal Bara. And if the person is strong in their iman, they're going to do the right thing. They're going to say, this all opposes Allah. This all opposes the foundations of Islam. So I can't take part in this, and I'm not going to allow you to take part in it either. So that's the psychological process that we have to go through in order to distance ourselves from that which opposes our belief. We have this hadith whereas a man came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he said, by Allah, I have come to the prayer late. And the reason why I came late to perform the prayer is because I didn't want to pray with that person. That person prays too long. Ibn Masud said when that man told the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet got so angry. And then the Prophet gave a lecture. And he said he never saw the Prophet deliver a lecture filled with admonition and anger like that. In fact, the Prophet stood up and said, some of you run people away from the deen. You run them away from good deeds. Whoever leads a congregational prayer should keep it short, because the people in the congregation have things to do, and some of the people are weak, some are old. Okay? So again, this hadith here, this hadith emphasizes the importance of not allowing your personal reasons, such as anger or resentment, to motivate disassociation. This hadith shows how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when approached with this, he let it be known. I mean, subhanallah, you guys leading people in prayer. Don't you know people got to go to work? Can't nobody be late to work. People are sick, got knee problems, and you got them standing up for an hour. Subhanallah, you got to put aside your personal desire to sing the Quran or whatever, and think about the people that you're leading. Think about how they come from different tracks and they got different obligations and different things to do. Okay, so again, that shows even when it comes to leading a prayer, we have to think out our actions, because we don't want to do something that will cause the people to want to distance themselves from us. Y'all see that? And that's why I tell you young kids, a lot of the young men here and women are always sending me emails saying, how can I be a scholar? First of all, don't ever ask that, because I told you about a scholar. The true scholars are rare. What you need to do is learn this deen. You don't want to end up being somebody who's looking for the fame, looking for the money, doing it for the wrong reason, and you make the people hate you because of it, because you over elongate it, you overdo it to show off, and you run the people away from you. And that's a big problem today. A lot of us don't want to go. Look at me. I can use myself. I don't go to the mosque. Why come I don't go to the mosque? Because number one, you can't hear the khutbah, because the women are too busy talking, too busy banging their heads on the floor or beating themselves up or singing hallelujah or whatever they're doing. Bad kids running all over. So I stay away from the mosque. I get no benefit there. Plus they cough and sneeze and don't cover their mouth. And these Muslims don't believe in taking COVID shots. I ain't getting that crap. Okay? Don't cause the people to dislike you and distance themselves away from you. And that's why the Prophet was angry. He said, oh, Mu'ad, because it was Mu'ad. He said, Mu'ad, are you a troublemaker? You are a troublemaker? You make the people not want to come together and pray because you overdo it? Subhanallah, balance. Don't give the people a reason to want to distance themselves from us, not the other Muslims. We have another hadith where a man came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam from Hunayn, and there was some silver in the pocket of Bilal. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam took a handful of it and gave it away to the people. And that man said, "Oh Muhammad, be just." The Prophet said, shame on you. Who would be just if I am not just? You would fail and lose if I were not just. And that's when Umar said, oh Prophet, do you want me to kill this man, this hypocrite, for saying that, for accusing you of not being just? And the Prophet said, no. He said, I seek refuge in Allah that the people would say that I'm killing my companions. No, don't do that. He said this man and his people will end up learning to recite the Quran. And they will learn to recite the Quran beautifully, but it'll never go past their throats. They will, because they won't understand what they're saying. And they will leave Islam just as an arrow passes through its target. And this happened. You know, these were the Mu'tazilah. Okay, and the Kharijites, you know, ouch, they came too. Oh, my leg. Okay. Some people can actually say things out their mouths that can cause you to dislike them and to not want to deal with them at all. But like the prophet said, Allah will take care of him and his followers. Okay. But we have to watch what we say to people, guys. You know, be careful how we address the things that we do when we're leading the prayer. Don't overdo it, because you can cause the people to distance themselves from that. Some of the things we say out of our mouths can cause others to dislike us and distance ourselves from that. I do that a lot. When I find a troublemaker amongst me and my website, I don't deal with them. I just ignore them. I'll give a person a chance, and I'll give them a chance, but I'm not stupid. When women are very vindictive, women are very jealous. When I see that I got a person here who's always confronting me, challenging me, I eventually just say, I'm just going to distance myself from her, not deal with her. And that's why some of these students of mine, like, why come Laila don't give me no attention? You know why? Every time I gave you attention, you want to come at me and confront me and challenge me. Hey, some people will cause us to distance ourselves from them because of the things they say out their mouths or the things that they do. So we have to be careful of that, guys. Watch the behavior that we exhibit with others, and watch our tongues when we're talking to others as well. Okay? We have another hadith. One of the companions says, my mother asked my father to give me a gift. He gave it to me after some hesitation. My mother said that she would not be satisfied unless the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was made a witness to it. I was a young boy. My father held me by the hand and took me to the Prophet. And he said, "O Prophet of Allah, his mother requested me to give this boy a gift." The Prophet said, "Do you have other sons too?" The man said, "Yes." The Prophet said, "Did you give them a gift too?" He said, "No." The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Do not make me a witness to injustice. I will not become a witness to injustice." Again, guys, Wal Bara. Wal Bara also means that we as individuals have to distance ourselves from things that oppose Islam. You can't show favoritism to one child over the other. And if a person asks you to witness that, you say, "No, I have to distance myself from that. I can't be a part of that." So some of us, have to choose to distance ourselves when we see the laws or the rules of Islam being violated. Because remember, as Muslims, we're supposed to enjoy the good. We're supposed to forbid the evil. So that's another example of distancing. Okay, I can't be a part of that. I can't be a witness to you being unjust to your children. Just like those people don't want to be a part of that man's prayer because he makes them stay too long. So you see, El Bara, distancing is a part of our life, guys. We're going to have to either indulge in it ourselves, or we'll be faced with it from others. Okay? Also, we have another verse of the Quran where Allah says in the interpretation of the meaning, whatever Allah has given to his messenger from the people of the towns, it is for Allah and for the messenger and for his close relatives and orphans and the traveler, so that it will not be a perpetual distribution amongst the rich from among you. And whatever the messenger has given you, take it. And whatever he has forbidden you, stay away from it. Now, this verse emphasizes the importance of cognitive understanding and emotional submission when it comes to adhering to the laws of Allah and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So again, Wal Bara inspires us to develop balance and a holistic approach to our faith. And by having that balance and that holistical approach to our faith, we're able to navigate the world's difficulties with clarity and conviction. That's the psychological aspect of Wal Bara. Wal Bara, just like Wala, you're using your brain to think, should I be a part of this? Should I not be a part of this? Should I do this? Should I not do this? Let me give an example. Tis the season. Tis the season. Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving will be here next month. Every Thanksgiving, you guys come and say, Sister Laila, can we celebrate Thanksgiving? If you would use Wal Bara, figure it out. You're going to have to think, does this holiday impede upon worship? Does this holiday contradict our way of worship? No. Allah commands us to give thanks. Nothing's wrong with giving thanks. Okay. So since this is not an act of worship that contradicts our worship, I can do it. Wait. There's another question you have to ask. Does this holiday impede upon my allegiance? By participating in Thanksgiving, am I showing allegiance to Allah? Is this showing allegiance to the Prophet? Is this showing allegiance to the Muslims? Did Allah say, give thanks to him one day out the year? Or did Allah say, thank him every day as often as you can? So that means, no, that's not showing allegiance to Allah, because Allah tells us the opposite. This holiday, we're thanking Allah just once out the year. Allah commands do it all as often as possible. So this impedes upon my allegiance to him. Did the Prophet Muhammad celebrate Thanksgiving? No. So by doing this, I'm again contradicting something that the Prophet did. Third question, celebrating Thanksgiving, is this uniting me with Muslims? Or is this showing allegiance to non-Muslims? Is this showing allegiance to pilgrims? Or is this showing allegiance to Muslims? Is this showing allegiance to Indians? Or is this showing allegiance to Muslims? This totally contradicts allegiance. So, no, I can't take part. I have to distance myself. Y'all see that? I'm just using this holiday as an example. This is what Wal Bara again takes it out of that heart. It's not personal. You're going to have to use your brain to think. Is it contradicting my religious beliefs? Is it contradicting my allegiance? Yes, it is. So because it is, I'm going to have to distance myself. So again, in order to practice Wal Bara, you're going to have to think And that's what this verse is all about. Whatever the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam gives us, we take it. Whatever he forbids, we refrain from. He didn't give us Thanksgiving. Okay? Allah didn't give us this either. This holiday is not showing allegiance to Allah because it's contradicting what he says. It's not showing allegiance to the Prophet because he didn't do it. And it's not showing allegiance to the Muslims because it ain't even about Muslims. It's about pilgrims and Indians. So that's an example, guys, as to how we engage and embark upon a psychological journey when dealing with Wal Bara, which is good because, again, the heart is where the emotions get involved. The brain keeps it not personal. Everybody understand this? Okay, so I'm going to stop right here. I want you guys to pick up tomorrow for the next part of this chapter. Pick up from this, and I'm going to give y'all a quiz tomorrow. I didn't give you a quiz today, but I'm going to put it all tomorrow with what we're going to talk about tomorrow and today. I want y'all to think about this psychological endeavor. You're going to have to take it out of your heart and put it in your brain. Put your personal feelings aside about Thanksgiving. Put your personal feelings aside about how you want to show the people that you can recite Al-Baqarah in the totality. And instead, you got to use your logic. Is this something that Allah commanded me to do? What would Allah say? That's where your empathy comes in too. All right. So any questions or comments?